Hello everybody, Corey here. In this video we will go over the single stock ETF trades and holdings. Just to let you know, even though it's Wednesday, they did do a lot of trades today. So this video will be a little longer than normal, and I was going to introduce additional column that I've added to the holdings, and then another working column that I've added. I'm just not 100% sure on that one yet. But anyway, to get into this, for those of you that don't know, I obtain data, make it readable, and present the data to everyday people like myself. I provide facts so those that watch my videos can use this information that I show in addition to their own knowledge and research of the funds to make their own decisions. I do not provide personal investment advice. I'm not a qualified licensed investment or financial advisor. I am an amateur investor. All information found here, including any ideas, opinions, views, predictions, forecasts, commentaries, suggestions, or stocks expressed or implied herein for informational, entertainment, or educational purposes only, and should not be construed as personal investment advice. While the information provided is believed to be accurate, it may include errors or inaccuracies. Conduct your own due diligence or consult a licensed financial advisor or broker before making any and all investment decisions. Any investments, trades, speculations, or decisions made on the basis of any information found in my videos expressed or implied herein are committed at your own risk, financial or otherwise. YieldMax ETFs are very risky. This risk information and these definitions are found on the YieldMax website and within their prospectuses. You can screenshot these, pause the video, go to the website of the prospectus, and read them. And please do so if you haven't already. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risk, charges, and expenses. This information, along with other details, is available in the prospectus. Please read the prospectuses carefully before making any investment. Investments involve risk, and principal loss is possible. They go into detail on underlying security risk, derivatives risk, distribution risk, NAV erosion risk due to distributions, call writing strategy risk, single issuer risk, high portfolio turnover risk, new fund risk, liquidity risk, and non-diversification risk. And what we will do today, because there's so many trades, we will do one ETF at a time. Therefore, you can so you can just fast forward if need be. So what we have here, and what I've done is I've tried to condense some of these columns so I don't have to scroll so much left to right due to having to zoom in for those of you on your iPhones or whatever, and so you can see that easier here. But you can see, if we're looking specifically at these closed positions here, that they closed out 3 of these short calls. Look, right off the bat, already seeing something. Alright, so I just looked, and they did close out the short call that expires this Friday, this line right here, this Friday, with a strike price of $21.50 and 260 contracts. This is what was on the holdings yesterday, which is odd because if you look up here, it shows they just also purchased 140 contracts with the strike price of $21.50 that expires this Friday. So I don't know if the maybe depending on how the market went today, or maybe the strike price is wrong. I don't know. But you do see that they did do a short call that will expire next week at a 22 strike price. So I'm not sure. All we can do right now is go with what we see here, what we pull from the data, right? Or what we have from the data that we received. All right. But then you can see the other ones with the $24 strike and the $24.50 strike. They went ahead and closed those out. As you can see, they could get 1 cent and 2 cents for those, so they closed them out, which then just even perplexes me even more, because they paid 16 cents a share to close this out, and then they bought 140 at 12 cents a share. I don't know. Maybe somebody else can explain, besides, it just happened at different times of the day or something like that. I don't even know, but I don't know. Alright, yeah, and these for next week, they received 31-cent premium for next week. So it's not really, and it's only a 50-cent different strike price. I don't know. Anyway, so let's look. We just showed those closed out there. We're going to go over and look here at our holdings tab. So AIYY closed at 1142 today, and AI closed at 2060. Now here for, this line right here, it does say added here because there was a line on the holdings for this. But obviously they sold the 260 and then they bought 140 at the same thing. So that's why that says added versus new. But you see, we have the top and bottom are the synthetic ones, and then of course we have those two new ones there, and I can condense that. So if we look here, now we have that short call, and of course it showed that it expires Friday, so we'll see. But it has the 21.50 strike, and we're currently 4% below that. And then we have the short call, the new strike price for next Friday's expiration, with a strike price of $22, and we're underneath that by 6%. Now, to go over here and to look at the new columns that I added, basically this first column is just showing the amount of the share price that is being reduced by the position. So in the instance of the first line there, 67 cents, as you can see, for the synthetic positions, the strike price is $22. Well, we're underneath that by 6%. So if we had to close the synthetics out today, it would cost us almost $1.6 million. And then if we want to look at that by, share, it's 67 cents. So basically, right, if we were up, and we didn't have to pay anything to close these out, or even, made money, but if we didn't have to pay anything to close these out, then we would have, our share price would be 67 cents more. Just to go into depth there. Same thing with the short calls here. It's the same thing. So here you can see that first one we just did there. It shows the market value of that as negative 1,540, which may equate to less than 1 cent a share, but regardless, we have to pay 1 cent a share to close those out. So if we look at the next one, negative 161,000 market value, that breaks down to negative 7 cents, rounded of course, 7 cents a share there. And so then at the top, it's just I'm just summing that. I could put a header there, and I just have to figure out what to put there to make it small so it doesn't make that column really big. But at this moment, it's just summing the numbers below, so we could see, if the world lined up right here, it would be 75 cents, which I actually should subtract 2 cents, I guess, because it's always going to cost a penny to close out the short calls. But there's a possibility that those could come up by those if these do better, at a minimum of 73 cents, if it could get up to the right prices there. Now, in this other column, I'm not sure about just yet. I think I want to test it and see how it goes, but I need some of the stocks to actually get to certain prices. But I'm playing with this formula with possible stock increases, meaning that, there's a possibility if the AI stock would go up, to like $22, which is the strike price here, that we could possibly gain 71 cents for the AIYY share price, stock price. So I don't know. Again, I am working on that column there also. And then, of course, I should probably also automatically take off a cent, just because we know it's always going to cost us a cent to close out. But anyway, again, just playing with those. But AB for sure is good to go. AC, I'm not 100% sure, how well that's going to work out. Obviously, that's capped on the upside, and then as far as the synthetics, it could just keep going down, 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 and down. But anyway, I just wanted to go over that new thing there. Y'all let me know what you think. And then I am going to trades. Okay, wasn't sure, but we don't have any AMD or AMZ. So the next one is Apple. So if we go down to AMDY, it closed at a 17.11. It went down $1.02 today. AMD went down to $154.02. We have two short calls here with the strike prices of 165 and 172.50, and we are currently underneath those strike prices by 7 and 11%. And then if we look at our synthetic position, and this is one of the reasons I had built this, for those of you that didn't already watch the daily video, but AIYY, I really kept an eye on that one, and then we ended up paying tons of money to close it out because of the synthetic and blah blah blah. But anyways, as we can see here on AMDY, or the AMD, we are 23% below that the strike price. So if we go over here to that first column that I was talking about, we can see that looking at the market value here, so it will cost us $31 million to close this. Of course, I know we have a few weeks left, but that's also what happened to AIYY, and it just kept going down further and never went up. I know AMD is a little different, and it has NVIDIA. If NVIDIA's doing good, it goes up. AMDY may go up, and AIYY didn't really have that unless it was Palantir when it went up, which isn't very often, right? So maybe this one won't be as bad as AIYY, but right now we're showing that the stock price is, because of that synthetic, the stock price is down $5.05. And then of course then you can see those for the strike prices for the short calls, which those were okay with there. And then we have the estimates that these could go up based on over here, based solely on the short calls, possibly. Again, I don't have the warm fuzzies about column AC yet. So I'm really going to have to watch it, either go back and test some historical data or something. I don't know. But it's showing that could possibly come up $1.81-ish there for that short call at the 172.50 strike price. Of course, we only have 2 days left this week, so or 2 trading days left. And then if we move on to AMZ, because it didn't have any trades here, it closed at 22.93. Amazon closed at 181.23. We have 2 short calls that strike prices are 187.50 and 190. We're underneath those 3 and 5%, and we're underneath our synthetic position by 2% there. Not a big deal here. We're nothing to really talk about here much for the synthetic. We're only down 2%, but it is bringing the stock price down by about 37 cents a share. Possible upside, if the formula is correct, of about $1 for that second synthetic position, or that second short call with the $190 strike price. Apple, they did close out a position, so they closed or rolled their short call. So let's look over here. They had the short call at a 180 strike price, so it looks like they did end up closing that out. They had 3,255 contracts, so they took roughly half of them and rolled them to next week with the expiration date of Friday and a new strike price of $172.50, which I guess we'll see on the holdings, for the 1,600 contracts. If we go over here, we can see those 1,600 we just talked about there, so we'll go by. But Apple closed down a little bit at 1,642, while Apple closed at 168. You see the short call here, the 172.50, that we're currently under by 3%. And then, of course, we have the short call. We're underneath 1% there, a couple of dollars. And then you can see the data over here on the right-hand side. That short call is bringing it down 13 cents. And possible upside of 43 cents. And if you fast forward, you probably don't know, but this test column shows a possible 43-cent upside. For Coney here, let's just make sure, because I did not check to make sure. Yeah, so no trades for Coney, but then we did have synthetic. Let's say that's just adding and new for Disney, Phoebe, GUI. So JPMO. All right, so for Coney, no trades, closed at 22.91. Coin closed at 213.78. So it must have come down because it was down closer to 200 at some point today. We have 3 short calls here that expire Friday with the strike price of 262.50, 270, and 277.50. We're underneath those strike prices by 19, 21, and 23%. For the synthetic, we are 18% below that strike price. So you can see here that synthetic position is bringing Coney down by $4.80 a share, and the short calls are actually looking okay there. If column AC is somewhat accurate, it shows that we could come up possibly $4.78 based on the short calls. However, we only have 2 days. If we look at Dizzo, you can see here they closed today at $20.49, so we were down 3 cents, while the stock price closed at $112.94, so almost down $1. They did add 90 contracts to the synthetic position and created a new short call that expires this Friday with a strike price of $115. We also have strike prices for the short calls expiring Friday of $116, $117, and $118, and we're underneath all of those by 2 to 4%. And we are underneath our synthetic position by 6%. So if we look in column AB over here, we can see being underneath that synthetic by 6% is costing us $1.16 a share. Assuming that our test column over here in AC is correct, there's a possible upside of roughly 70 cents a share. If we move on to Phoebe closed at 21.30. Meta closed at 494.17. We have two short calls that expire Friday with 5.15 and 5.30 strike prices, and we're underneath those by $4 and $7. We have two synthetic positions that were underneath by 4 and 6%. And as we can see over here on the right hand side in column AB, those synthetics are causing the stock price to be down by $1.08. And if our test column in AC is somewhat accurate, then it shows that the stock price could come up roughly $1.40. And then if we go down to GUI closed at 17.33. Alphabet closed at 155.47. We have two short calls that expire on Friday with strike prices of 157.50 and 160, and we're underneath those strike prices by 1 and 3%. And then this, I think, is the first one we've looked at like this, but the synthetic position, since we're actually green on it, I think we might only have one or two of those. I think a max 3, I can't remember off of the daily roundup now, but this is showing that the synthetic is actually bringing our stock price up by 69 cents a share. And then we have our test column, AC, of possible upside for the short calls. Again, it is a test area only. And then JPMO, we had a bunch of trades, and so let's try and decipher those here. So JPMO. So the first 4 lines, they added 55 contracts to these synthetic positions, and then they split the 55 contracts between 2 different strike prices for this week that expire on Friday. So they have strike price of 180 and 182.50 with 20 and 35 contracts. And so that takes into account the new contracts bought in. And then the bottom 3 lines is where they ended up closing out this short call for this week with a strike price of 200 of 695 contracts. And they've used about half of those contracts for next week, for short calls for next week, with expiration date of Friday and strike prices of 180 and 182.50. And then the other, they still have the other that they can use later. So, if we go over to our holdings for JPMO, now we can see, let's see, JPMO closed today at 19.55. JPM closed at 180.08. So JPMO went down 10 cents. Okay, and JPM went down 72 cents. All right. And then you see all of our different things we have going on here that we already went over on the previous tab as far as our trades go. And now we have, I've never seen this many short calls for JPMO, but we have 5 here. So we have 3 that will expire this Friday. And then we have the 2 new ones for next week. So the 3 for this week were at strike prices of 180, 182.50, and 185. We're underneath those anywhere. Well, we are over the 180 strike price by 8 cents, and then we're underneath the 182.50 and 185 by 1 and 3%. And then for next week, the 180 strike price, we're already over that by 8 cents. And then we have the 182.50, of course, we're underneath that by 1%. And then if you look at our synthetic position, we're underneath that by 10%. So if we look over here at our new column, some AB, being underneath that synthetic position by 10% has caused the stock to drop, the JPMO stock to drop by $2.06 here. And if we look at our test column, AC, possible upside with the short calls, maybe 16 cents. Because we don't really have a bunch going on there. Because, I mean, yeah, the 185 strike price only has 35 contracts to it, so that's only 4 cents. And then the 182.50, we're 1% underneath that, but we have 175 contracts there, so that's 10 cents there. All right. And then we'll move on to the next, which I didn't even look to see what other trades we needed to look at over here. So let's see. We'll cover those on the daily. Okay, so we'll come back for Misty. Oh my goodness, Misty. Okay, so Murney here, it closed at $20.10, so down 4 cents, and Moderna was $1.03 and down a few cents itself. They added 130 contracts to the synthetic position and created a new short call with a strike price of $107, which were under 3%. They also have strike prices of 108 and 109 short calls, and we're underneath those 4 and 5% there. And for our synthetic position, we're currently underneath the strike price by 6%. So if we look at our new columns over on the right hand side, being underneath the synthetic by 6% is causing the stock to drop to be down $1.18 there. And possible upside on these short calls with our test column, AC, is roughly $1. And then if we move on to MSFO, it closed at 21.63, and Microsoft closed at 411.84. We have 2 short calls that expired this Friday with the strike prices of 430 and 435. We're underneath those by 4 and 5%, and then we're underneath our synthetic positions by 3%. Being underneath the synthetic position by 3% is causing the stock MSFO to be down by 61 cents. Possible upside, according to our test column, AC for the short call is roughly 97 cents. And then we will go on to the Misty trades. All right. So Misty here, they finally decided to close out the synthetic positions with the strike price of $1,700, which at the end of the day we were underneath underneath those by 30%, which I'm curious what they paid to close it out. So this minus that. So $512 at the end of the day. I will say that MicroStrategy was lower, and it did come up some. So if we look over here, they ended up paying, $510 to close that out, but it cost $32.2 million. Which, looking at the data from yesterday, that was roughly, that synthetic ended up costing Misty about $10 a share, a reduction by $10. Of course, I'd have to To really look at that dollar amount, I'd have to go back because I did not add the new data. Sorry, I'm trying to do something. I didn't add this new data on here as far as per share and stuff until today, and so you might want to check out the daily roundup if if you don't watch that already, just because I did add some new things on there today. So if we took that and divided that by, we only have 2.8 million shares here. Yeah, okay. So that was yesterday. It cost us about 10 cents a share. So it ended up costing $11.51 a share to close this out. So that's why Misty, you know, MicroStrategy is dropping, obviously, which then this ended up dropping way below the strike price of the synthetic. And then that's the result of it. It caused the stock to drop that much. Excuse me. Due to that. But anyway, it's just a new thing that I started looking at because we're having problems now with some of these synthetics, and we'll continue to have this problem, especially when the stocks go down or if we're in a bear market. And if they don't do those, the strike price is low enough. Which is crazy because, oh no, this is the new one. I was going to say, because we did have strike prices of like $825 not too long ago for our synthetic positions, but they did expire, I think, March 28th. So, well, I guess I probably shouldn't be looking at that on here because it'll make y'all dizzy looking through here. And I don't know the exact date. I just know that the expiration date was the 28th. So I don't know exactly when they closed it out. But anyway. Back to here. So they closed that out, and then they created... Okay, so the first three lines was where they added 23 contracts, which means because they did double, that they're both not going to come up on my sheet for the same thing. Okay, never mind. So they didn't they only purchased in 28 short call and then 28 for the synthetics, and those did actually come over on my sheet here. So with that said, let's just go ahead and look at them on the holdings so we can see it all together here. So we can see that Misty, like I said, it was up to $40. We're down to, $29.63, basically due to the synthetic position and the stock, MicroStrategy dropping. Which, with that said, MicroStrategy was at 1188.05 at the end of the day. But you can see where they added 660 contracts to the synthetic position, and then they created a new, they closed out the old one with the old strike price, and then they had the new strike price of $11.50 now for the synthetic, and then they created a new short call with a strike price of $1,290, which is significantly lower compared to the rest of them. So we actually have a total of 4 short calls now. 1290, 1505, 1635, and 1670, and we're underneath those any from 8 to 29%. And then if we scroll over here to the right, so we can see that the synthetic position, it's, about 3% above the strike price. It's bringing the stock price up by $1.03 there. And of course, all of our short calls look okay, but we always have to pay at least 1 cent to close those out, so keep that in mind. And then if our test column with possible upside, is accurate or somewhat accurate, we're showing the stock could go up $8. However, no, we only have 2 trading days left for here. So let's see. They just added 2. Okay, so OARC will be the next one. So let's go down to Netflix here with no trades. They closed at 18.12, and so they went down 3 cents, while Netflix went down a few dollars to 613.69. We have 2 short calls. Oh, they did have trades. Sorry, we didn't have any to go over there. They added 20 contracts to the synthetic and the short call with the 680 strike price. And then they also have a short call with a strike price of 685, and we're underneath those by 10. And these short calls expired this Friday. Then we have the synthetic position that we're under by 3%. As you can see, it's bringing the stock price down by 54 cents over on the right. And then we have possible upside if our test column is somewhat accurate of about $1.80 based on the short calls there. Again, we only have 2 trading days left. NVIDIA closed at 25.61. NVIDIA closed at 840.35. Wow. So we have 2 short calls. Sorry, I was thinking of how low the S&P and NASDAQ was down today. We have 2 short calls here that expire this Friday with a 900 and 920 strike price. We're currently underneath those by 97 and 9%. And our synthetic strike price of 915, we're underneath that by 8%, which is bringing the stock down by $2.10 a share. Possible upside if our test column is somewhat accurate of about $2.20 for the short calls. And then we had trades for OARC, because they ended up, I think, rolling the short calls. Yeah, so they have, okay, so about half of them, which seems to be their new thing here. Let's see. So 15,500 contracts, and they closed them all out for 2 or 3 cents a piece. The strike prices were 46, 48, 50, and 49. And our new short call that expires next Friday has a strike price of $45, and we're underneath that by 4%. And as you can see, that's only roughly half of the contracts. So if we go over here and look, we have OARC closing at 11.28, while ARC closed at 43.03. And then we can see our new short call there, and we'd already went over the strike price in that. And then if we look at our synthetic position, our strike price is $50, and we're underneath that by 14%, which is bringing the stock price down by $1.78 a share. And in our test column of upside AC, there's a possibility of coming up 50 cents. However, again, it is a test, and we only have 2 trading days left. All right, so PayPay, it looks like they closed out, well, let's look at the first 3 lines. We have additional buy-in here, so they have 75 contracts that they've done for those 3 lines. And then the bottom 3 lines, what they've done is they've closed out the short calls here for 66 and 67.50 strike price, and then they rolled those to next week, next Friday instead, with the strike price of $65 for all 2,000 490 contracts. So if we go over to our holdings, so PayPay closed at $18.65, up 3 cents, while PayPal closed down a few cents to $63.26. You can see here where they added to the synthetic and the new short calls here. So the 2 short calls expire. One expires next week, one expires this week, 64 and 65. So this is new, but that one, oh yeah, that was new because that was the 75. All right. All right. So anyway, those strike prices for the short call were underneath those by 1 and 3%, and you can see our synthetic position with a $65 strike price. We are underneath that by 3%. So you can see if you look at our new columns over here, being underneath that synthetic position is causing the stock price to be down 42 cents. As far as this one down here that says negative 22 cents, that's mainly because this is further out. So once we get closer to that, that number should go down, assuming that we stay away from, we do not go over the stock price, or we do not go over the strike price. If our test column is accurate over here, it looks like we could go up, roughly 49 cents based off of our short calls if the stock price rises. All right. Let's double check our trades. And of course, so we can make it through one squee here with no trades. Squee closed at 22.31. Block closed at 73.51. We have one short call that expires Friday with the $80 strike price. And you can see here for our synthetic position, it has an $80 strike price, and we're underneath that by 8%. So if we look in column AB, we can see that the stock price of squee is down $1.84 due to the synthetic position. And if we could come up to the strike price of the short call of $80 in 2 days, which I doubt, that it could possibly come up around $1.80 based on our test column. If we go over here to look at our Tesla trades, you can see that even though they're all over the place, that they closed out the short call that expired this Friday with the 177.50 strike price. It's just, they're spread out, but it's the same there. And the stock prices are actually the same over here, 4 cents and $1.79 there. So, but what they did is they rolled this one and this one and this one. They've just closed it out, so they'll do these later because this is half of these shares. So they'll wait and see how things go. But they've closed all of those out. So let's go back over to our holdings, and we can see here. So Tesla closed today at 14.09, and Tesla closed at 155.45. Oh, I'm looking at that synthetic dollar amount over there, negative 71.5 million. But anyway, you can see the new contracts here that we rolled for next week. But the short call there with a strike price of 175, and we're underneath that by 11%. So we look at our synthetic. We have 2 synthetic positions there with strike prices of 170 and 175. If we look over in column AB, we can see due to the 175 strike price synthetic position, the stock price is down 32 cents. And then if we look at the 175 strike price, which we're under 11%, the stock price is down the Tesla stock price is down $1.24. And then, of course, if we had to close out these synthetic positions, it would cost, like I'd already said, today, $71.5 million. Of course, we are a few weeks out, so I usually don't cover that. However, these stocks are going down every day, and I wanted to cover our new column AB so you can see how this is affecting us per Tesla share. I think that gives us a little bit more insight to it. But looking at our test column AC, possible upside of $1.57, but that also is in 2 trading days, and again, this is a test area, a test number. And Zomo here, they closed out the short call with a strike price of 126. They did roll that to next week for Friday expiration, but they split it in 2 at the strike price of 121 and 122. And let's see what it cost them, 2 cents to close that out. So then that's going to be our last one here. So let's go to our holdings and Zomo. And we can see that Zomo closed down 2 cents today to 18.21. Exxon closed down 6 cents to 118.63. You can see the 2 new short calls there. Okay. So they didn't close them out 100%. Let's look here. If we look at yesterday. All right. I promise y'all this makes me more sick than it does y'all scrolling like that on the screen. All right. So they did have this 1485, and then they had the 120 and the 140. All right, so they still have the 120 and the 140. They just did the other one. And we can see because here these are still a little bit more. All right, so we see the ones that are going to expire this Friday there. Let's scroll this down so we can see the whole picture. 121 and 123 strike prices underneath those 2 and 4%, and then we have our new ones for next week with the 121 and 122 strike prices underneath those 2 and 3%. The synthetic strike price is 120, underneath that by 1%, and you can see in column AB that's bringing the stock price, Zomo stock price down by 23 cents. And again, in case you fast forwarded earlier, of course this one's a little bit higher, a little bit higher than the others because it is a week away. As we get closer, and as long as we don't go over the strike price, that will come down. And then if we look in column AC in our test column, assuming this is somewhat accurate, we could possibly see an upside of 43 cents. Only, this is the 5 cents for, 5 cents for this week's contracts that expire, since we only have 2 days left, and then these are the 2 for next week. If you look down here, YieldMax, these are not adjusted for the distribution. So trying to think. No, I didn't adjust the daily either. But what we can see on the daily, oh my goodness. All right, things aren't wanting to populate, so let's look at this one. Sorry. Of course. This one I didn't have the updated amounts on here. I had them on here at the bottom. So maybe, okay, at least those look good. You can see here, this is updated. So this is the for YieldMax, and Ulti. If you don't already watch the daily video, if you've already watched it, you know, you can end here. But you can see this was ex-dividend, and this is today's stock prices. This is where we're at as far as the drop between yesterday and today, which is also the day before the ex-dividend date, and then today the ex-dividend date. These were the actual distributions. So on top of the drop of those distributions, this is what we've dropped additional today. So then the stock price is actually down an additional for YMAG 19 cents today, and YMAX 18 cents today. And then Ulti, which I don't care about in this video. But anyway, let me know what you think about, you know, these two new columns here, as far as the column AB, you know, being the column that is based off the market value and outstanding shares to show us how these affect the Zomo stock price or share price itself. And then column AC with the possible upside, but unless I actually, you know, I don't know, see these, actually start looking at these and actually seeing how these, see how accurate these are, I don't really know. So I'll have to watch these and see. But anyway, let me know what you think. I hope y'all got something out of today's video. Sorry that it's longer, of course, but there were lots of trades that happened today. But hopefully that means lesser trades the next couple of days, so then maybe those won't be as long as normal. But anyway, y'all have a great day tomorrow. Bye.